Tucker. I am South Coast Repertory's interim prop supervisor. What does a prop supervisor do? In a nutshell, the prop supervisor is tasked with getting all the props needed for rehearsal and for the production. They start by reading the script and creating a prop list and budget. They work closely with the designer and the director to acquire all the props, ensuring that they fit in with the design and the world of the play. The prop supervisor also works with the shopper buyer and the props artisans to build, purchase, or pull any props needed for the production. What is a prop? So props are broken down into three main categories. You have hand props, which is anything that the actor touches, picks up, or carries around stage. So a coffee cup, a newspaper, a lantern. And hand props are broken down into subcategories, where you have consumables. So that could be anything that's eaten or broken during the production. So a piece of toast or a letter that gets crumpled up, or anything that needs to be replaced on a regular basis is a consumable. Then you have costume props, which are either worn or carried by the actor. So a purse, a briefcase, a cane. And these are things that sometimes fall under the costume design and the costume department. So it's just a matter of communicating and figuring out who's going to be responsible for it. You then have practical props, which is anything that needs electricity, it's battery operated, or has a speaker in it. So like a lamp, a music box with a speaker. These are things that we would coordinate with the lighting department and the sound department. Set props are pieces that generally aren't moved around, but there are some exceptions. So appliances, rugs, couches, chairs. Now chairs can be moved by the actors, so that's one of the exceptions. And then you have set dressing, which isn't anything used by the actor, but it's there to enhance the environment of the set or the room. So like picture frames, books, curtains, flowers, anything else that's not part of the set that's just there to create the world. So the easiest way to think about props is to think of your apartment or your house. So anything that you would pack up or put into a moving truck that's not clothing is a prop. Anything that's left behind is a set piece. Does SCR make, buy, or find their props? So we do a combination of all three. We start by pulling props from stock, and then purchasing or building to fill in those gaps according to the design. We may also modify existing props. In our team, so we have a dedicated shopper buyer whose main job is to go out and make these purchases or pick up rental pieces or materials to build props. And since props is such a wide field of what they can be, props artisans have an equally wide field of skills. So you could do carpentry, welding, sewing, upholstery, foam carving, scenic painting, drafting, mold making, and even graphics to make paper props and labels. So it's also super beneficial to be well-rounded with skills as possible, because you never know what's going to come up for a show. But also with that, you don't know what you're going to need to know, so it's totally fine to learn new skills on the fly and adapt what you know. Take us through the process of how you create the props for a play. Who do you work with to do this, and how long does it take? So I briefly touched on this earlier, but the collaboration between scenic designer, director, and props team is huge. So it's the director and the designer's visions that we are working towards to create and enhance. So there's always room for props to be added, for props to be eliminated. So you may spend a lot of time building a prop that gets cut before it gets to stage, and that's just the life of props. It's how it is. So on average, we generally have 2 to 4 weeks to get props ready for a show. But we're also working on multiple shows at once, so time management and communication is vital. How did you train for your job? So I've done theater practically my entire life. I acted from a really young age, and then when I got to high school, I started doing set construction. I then got my BFA from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro in technical direction. I then worked as a carpenter welder for a few years before going to grad school. And initially I thought I was going to grad school for technical direction, and changed to props midway through. So I got my MA in Scenic Art and Construction from the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama in Wales. What is the most incredible or outlandish prop you've ever created? So once again, kind of a tricky question, because with props we're asked to do the impossible quite frequently. But my personal outlandish prop would be the life-size stained glass Dalek that I made. I made it in grad school, and it used so many techniques, construction and carpentry and welding, foam carving, metalwork, spray painting, drafting. The whole process from start to finish was huge. So coming up with the design and then building the design from there. I really enjoyed it. I liked how it turned out. I probably would never do it again, but it helped me learn a lot of new skills. Prop or not a prop? So this kind of goes back into that gray area of some things are props, some things are costumes, some things are set, and it's just all a matter of what your theater company has set up for it to be, as well as even show specific, just communicating who's going to do what. So curtains, these are part of set dressing. So they will either be built or purchased depending on if the window is a standard size, with the color, the fabric, whatever the designer wants it to be. Umbrella, that is a prop piece. It's a costume prop. Parasol. Now these are going to be costume pieces. And so the costume department generally is going to be the one to provide it. That's not to say that sometimes props isn't asked to, but in my experience, it comes from costumes. Briefcase, that is a costume prop, so that will come from us. Bottle of scotch. So both the bottle and the liquid is a prop, or a set dressing piece. There are multiple ways of making non-alcoholic liquids on stage. So for beer, sometimes you can get away with just non-alcoholic beer, or you can use a malted drink, caramel food coloring, or even just tea or coffee to color the liquid to be whatever beer or liquor you want it to be. And so the thing with consumables, though, is you need to coordinate with the actor who's going to be drinking them to make sure they don't have any allergies or that they just can't stand the taste of whatever it is. It's also good to coordinate with the costume department. If it's a scene where the liquid gets thrown onto an actor or they spill on themselves, you want to make sure it's not going to stay in the costume. What are you working on right now? So right now, I'm using my time to brush up on some of my computer-based skills. I'm working in Vectorworks drafting program, Photoshop, and I'm just reading and researching commonly used prop techniques. If you weren't a theater pro, what occupation would you have and why? So honestly, this question has always been difficult for me. I love what I do, and I don't think really about doing anything else. If I didn't do props for theater, I would do props for film. If I had to pick something entirely different, probably something with animals or animal rescue. Any recommendations for reading, viewing, or activities for us during the stay-at-home order? So if you're into props or looking to get into props or just interested in props, I would say take time to read as many reference books as you can, or even maybe make some paper props. Make a letter, practice your handwriting, your paper folding, making it a certain period style. Just, small tasks that can be fun. You can, mail them to your family or whatever. Or just drawing or reading for fun. It doesn't have to be, all work all the time. I'm spending a lot of time when not working with my cats and Zooming with family and friends. Yeah, so I hope that was a good little insight into the world of props. Thank you for watching Meet a Theater Pro. I am Kat Kerr, South Coast Repertory's Interim Prop Supervisor.